Twisters is a 2024 Hollywood blockbuster from Lee Isaac Chung, who directed Minari back in 2020, who has now been roped in to direct this standalone sequel to the 1996 movie, likely for a really great paycheck or because he happens to want to do this. And honestly, it's an entertaining movie. I had the benefit of seeing this movie twice. First time around, I really didn't like it. I didn't think it was anything special, and I still don't think it's an amazing movie. But the second round, I went to see it in 4DX in Times Square at their massive new theater for a special event screening in late August because Deadpool and Wolverine had taken over all the PLF screens, which stands for Premium Large Format. And people were kind of pissed. They had less than a week to experience Twisters in 4D because it's basically tailor-made for that. Well, I did go at the very end of August see this movie in 4D on a Friday night screening in Times Square, in a packed screening. All the seats were sold, and I really can say it's like I got to meet God. I was in my church. No, but all kidding aside, I really do think Twisters is the perfect example of an old school Hollywood blockbuster. One you don't really get anymore in modern movies, and it shows how movies like this can succeed where other movies have failed. So today I want to talk about Twisters and its success, how this unconventional blockbuster in today's landscape worked and became a movie that not only grossed a ton of money, but scored very well with critics and fans alike. I saw this first time around in a packed screening, and a couple of people afterwards said they hated it, but after the 4D one, people were praising the film. And the difference was very stark. It was very different. So let's talk about that today, how Twisters is a blockbuster that demands to be seen on the big screen and works as a form of escapism, simple but effective escapism. So the first thing is this movie is a standalone sequel. The movie exists for itself. It is a sequel only in name to the 1996 movie, and I'll admit I haven't even seen the original Twisters. I own a VHS copy of the movie, but I've never actually seen it. The movie works because it's building on a property that already has succeeded, but it's not making any callbacks. It's not demanding that you have seen the original Twisters to understand this one, and it makes sense, and it's pretty good from a marketing standpoint. They're going to bring back people who liked the first Twister, but if you haven't seen that one, it doesn't matter, and it won't ruin your chance to see this. You're not going to go, oh, I haven't seen the first Twister, so can't see this one. No, it's just Twisters. There's no, you need to see the first one. Just see it, and you'll have fun. If you did see the original Twister, go see this one, and maybe you'll get something else that you remembered from the 90s. So it kind of works in that perspective. It's a pretty remarkable natural disaster movie from the 90s, the original Twisters, but it's arguably not as iconic as anything like Titanic or Independence Day, which really isn't natural disaster, but still, they had a lot of disaster movies back then. I mean, I could be wrong, but both of those movies, Titanic and Independence Day, outright won a ton of Oscars or made box office history. Point of case being, Twisters is not a movie a lot of younger audiences would even know. It's a movie being built around a completely new story around the same exact topic, and using the name to draw in a smaller crowd or one who would be original, like in the original film, smart. The story is pretty well structured. It boils down to structure. The movie is relatively fast-paced, and it always gives you great action scenes. On top of that, the actors kind of fit the story and are introduced very well. It has this great cold opening where you get to meet Daisy Edgar Jones and see her backstory and how she loses her closest friends, including her boyfriend, best friend, chasing storms. And it does this in an effective way, as any Hollywood blockbuster should, at getting an emotional story out, but doing it in a fast and effective way. And the hook is right there at the beginning. You get the idea that they're working on this idea to stop Twisters from forming, so you get a bit of plot info that will come back later in the film right away. And you get to build the character's backstory, motive, and gives a great hook from the opening. You see her passion for chasing storms. You see how devastated and dedicated to stopping them she would be after losing her friends. And most importantly, you get an emotional investment, one that hooks you in through the intense opening and gets you ready for the rest of the movie. Now that whole opening sets up a lot of important stuff. It gives you emotional backbone. It gives you character work. It gives you motivation, and it gives you this trauma. So the first 5-10 minutes of this movie are so great, and it's just a perfect way to make a fast-paced Hollywood blockbuster. You don't need to slow down later in the movie because you've already kind of set this up. Then the movie cuts to 5 years later, and Daisy Edgar Jones's Kate is working an office job. She's in New York doing weather. My audience actually did get a big laugh out of this because there was just a storm in New York, and the screening was in the city. So from then on, we go to meet Javi, played by Anthony Ramos, who already was with Kate when all her friends got sucked up into the tornado. Or was it a Twister? I guess it was a Twister. He wants Kate to join him in his plan to start mapping out Twisters. He's built this new technology, and she's hesitant. It's the perfect situation, one of those, I need you, I have lots of people, but you're the only one who can do this. I need you, Kate, you're the only one for the job. But it works because it's introduced very quickly, and you already have this connection from the first time you met them in the opening scene. and which already gave you a bit of humor in the team bonding. And when you see them all being torn apart, when the friends are killed in the twister, it does affect you then when Javi comes back and is clearly wanting Kate to join him. It hits emotionally, and it's a really good moment. And then she does get hesitant, and she does go to join him eventually and gives in. And from then on, the pacing is just really good. You get bits of character development, but then right after that, you get storm chasing. So it's very fun to watch. It's not like you're staying, and just hearing dialogue. Like, right as it should be getting boring, it goes right into the storm chasing. And then you get to meet new characters too. You meet Tyler Owens, who goes against everything Kate stands for, who's played by Glenn Powell. And this gives great irony and great contrast, especially for a Hollywood blockbuster. This is always good for plot. This is what the movies have going for in the old Hollywood way. It isn't inventing the wheel or anything or doing anything out of the normal. It's simple fun and giving these great action scenes over these fun, contrasting characters that build over these action scenes that happen every 10 minutes. I mean, I could tell you it's simple and has been done before and not that original, but what it does really well and is worth watching for is fun and charismatic Glenn Powell and Daisy Edgar Jones play their characters really well. And you believe the chemistry. She's this stuck-up city girl who doesn't want to be dealing with his annoying shtick, but he does it anyway, and then she doesn't believe him, and then he one-ups her, and he's like doing something for charity. Like she says, "Oh, you're just here to sell merch," but then the next scene, oh, he's actually like selling stuff for charity. She thinks, oh, thinks he's going to ride through the twister. He's an idiot, but then she ends up being stuck on the side of the road, and he actually gets the footage that she wanted. Like, he also waits outside her door for pizza he brings her. She takes the pizza and leaves him outside, and then she comes right back out, and he's still waiting. He's still got that charming smile. It's such a small thing, but it's played for laughs and implies this dude's been waiting out here for a while. And it's just not even that funny, but it's a small, humorous moment that helps build their relationship. And from then on, they start bonding and going off to chase storms together. And she isn't as much annoyed and trying to spite him, but working with him towards the same goal. The movie doesn't really need to even have a clear antagonist. The twister itself is the antagonist. It's a disaster movie. But also, future Superman David Corenswet plays a member of Javi's Storm Tracker team, and it's literally the only thing we have in a human antagonist. And he doesn't really want Javi to do the right thing, which is helping random citizens we don't really know much about when they're involved in Twister. But it does drive most of the second and third act in typical 90s disaster movie fashion for this simplicity that works. For a movie like this, it doesn't bog you down. It doesn't make you think too hard. It gives you clear-cut caricatures, an asshole in a convenience store who doesn't know a storm is going on, a mother and child. It lets you understand the plot through simple actions, and it works. Like, you see this asshole in the convenience store, doesn't think there's a twister, then he goes outside and gets sucked up. Like, it works because this guy's an asshole, so you don't care that he died in a twister, and it proves the point. There is something bad going on. And then you have this simple mother and child who you haven't met before, but Daisy Edgar Jones and Glenn Powell have been working together, and now they're finally, like, actually bonding. So then when they go and they save this mother and child, it works. You'd usually have me arguing that, oh, this mother and child came out of nowhere. Like, who are they? There's no development. But no, Culture Nerds fans, no, you don't always need to build up random side characters. It just lets you understand through the plot and through simple actions, it works. Because this has mostly been Daisy Edgar Jones and Glenn Powell's movie, and getting to see them kind of form that bond finally. Then when they have to do something that they're both bonding over, this both involves a twister, it works. Sometimes it helps to get away with plot this way. You can explain things simply and quickly. When David Cornsweat gets mud spot on his jeans and he gets left behind, when Javi takes control of the storm chasing trucks to go do the right thing and help people left behind in the twisters, my audience clapped. And it's not like the film really even has a villain. He's not a villain. What it does is build up suspense and build up excitement towards action by making it not a movie where two protagonists have to defeat a villain. It does feature a major natural disaster and give opposing forces, such as the future Superman character, which is perfect because it's everything in a movie like this that it needs. Multiple points of tension to increase the stakes. But what does drive it home is the two main opposing views of the main characters. You have Daisy Edgar Jones' Kate and Glenn Powell's Tyler Owens. They have totally different views and different ways of doing things, but in typical buddy comedy fashion, they learn to work together and deal with their differences, which is honestly kind of simple and super cliche here, but it works because the twisters themselves are really cool. And when you're seeing it in 4D, oh boy, it's on another level. Like Top Gun Maverick, this is not reinventing what you can do with movies. Yeah, that movie was honestly pretty fucking technically impressive. Kosinski literally had jets with cameras on them and filmed it in IMAX. I mean, okay, hats off. But Twisters, just for the sake of seeing movies, does work in a way most modern movies don't, with a grounded and relatable antagonist in a twister. It's not Thanos snapping his finger to level the universe because, you know, they needed a big bad. It's not an epic battle between good and evil in space with a bunch of mythology behind it. It's not something you need to explain for 20 minutes to catch someone up on something they missed before you go to the movie. It's a simple blockbuster plot. This works because it's blockbuster noise, but it's presented almost as high art done to the perfect tune. The movie wins, and it works because it sets its foundation, the twisters being the things they are chasing, and it keeps increasing the tension and the size of the twisters. The movie, you could argue, is just the characters doing the same thing over and over, and well, it's kind of true, but it works because you have emotional character development. A central arc here is Kate learning to face her fear of the twisters, and she does that through Tyler, who she initially doesn't like. The first time they are chasing a twister, they both work to overcome a common goal. They aren't really friends, and in the process, she also has to learn to face her past with Javi, who she stopped talking to after a friend died, but they kind of reach a mutual understanding and work together in the end to defeat this giant twister that comes over to take over the town. And as the movie progresses, the twisters keep getting bigger and the relationships between the characters keep changing. So it isn't really doing the same thing, it actually is different. In this way, Twisters is both highly predictable and very safe. Yet it's far from original, but it works because it takes a very strong approach to delivering this Hollywood ending that has always worked in movies. It masters structure and formula. It does something we've seen 1,000 times before, but it builds it around its specific goal and obstacle, in this case, the fire tornado or the twister tearing through the town. And the final set piece is interestingly set in a movie theater and even leaves you with this incredibly subtle, while not so subtle commentary about the power of movies and how movies unite us and save us. Finally, what I wanted to talk about was how Twisters works for rewatchability. Its pacing is so good, it's kind of hard to get bored because they're always actively doing things in this movie. You want exposition about Tyler Owen's character, they go to a rodeo to explain it, which then leads into a massive Twister sequence. You want Kate's backstory, which is set in her farmhouse when you meet her mom, and is so closest, the only thing we have to like a lull in this movie. You still get this quirky dynamic where Tyler Owens shows up to her house and tries to work with her, and even the mom seems like she has like a crush on him. They're just starting to bond, and it works, and it's pushing forward the dynamic and creating something new. The scene even earlier in the film where you see how the different storm chasers have radically different approaches to chasing storms is good because it provides fun contrast and humor with how differently they approach these things. The technical guys with all the gear and equipment don't end up catching a storm, where Tyler Owens and his crew, as future Superman calls them, a bunch of hillbillies with the YouTube channel, end up chasing the best twister. The movie provides all these contrasts and ironic moments, which keeps pacing great and keeps the movie fun. You need these things because they could just have dialogue, but they're always adding these little dynamics, which makes it fun, which makes it rewatchable, which makes it entertaining. So let me know what you guys think of Twisters. Honestly, this movie grossed a lot of money. There could be a Twisters 3. What will they call it? Tsunamis? Honestly, if you could let me know in the comments what you think a good Twisters title would be and plot, I'd love that. Definitely will respond. Let me know what you guys think of this movie, and thanks so much for watching.